Under the pressure of death, liars cave in. Just look at Watergate. Dean, Ehrlichman, and Haldeman caved in under the penalty of a few years in prison. If those eyewitnesses did not see Jesus risen from the dead, then they certainly would have said to those Roman soldiers, oh, no, wait a second. We just made this up. They didn't. Every single one of them said, I have seen Jesus Christ risen from the dead, and they died. Not for a belief. They died not for a religion. They died for what they claimed to have seen. The dead Christ risen from the dead. Psychology shows us. People will not die to cover up what they know to be a lie. Will people die for a lie? Absolutely yes. But they'll die deceived that the lie is true. If those first century followers of Christ did not see Christ risen from the dead, then they died to cover up what they knew to be a lie. Can't get people to do that. Under the pressure of death, people will break and say, you're right, I didn't see Christ risen from the dead. But they stuck with what they claimed, not simply to believe, they stuck with what they claimed to have seen, the dead Christ risen from the dead. Okay, the reason I'm convinced they're real is because the gap between the occurrence and the writing is so small that it did not allow for mythology to grow up. See, those eyewitnesses read those Gospels before they died, and they put their stamp of approval on those Gospels.
Studies have shown that, say for instance on animals like rats,
Right.
If you say that love is an emotion, just like any other emotion, I mean they're unlike, but like anger, sadness, whatever.
Right.
There have been studies shown where rats have been implanted with electrodes in their brain. They've been able to be basically controlled, where they have shown the emotions of anger,
Yes.
sadness, happiness. How do you know that it's not just a complex electrochemical reaction inside your brain?
Okay, great question. The reason it's a great question is because obviously if you did a lobotomy on me, you could radically change my behavior.
Yeah.
All right? So obviously you're right in a sense. We have biochemical reactions that go off in our brain. Obviously we have psychological illness. Obviously we have low serotonin levels that lead to depression. Obviously we have mental disorders where we try and chemically rearrange the chemical makeup of the brain. So obviously there is a physical component, no question about it. My point is simple. My point is, when you write up the chemical analysis of the human brain, you haven't told the whole story. What I mean is this. Tonight, I can sit on the side of my bed, and I can judge myself. I can say, look, when you spoke to that student, good job, do it again. Look, when you spoke to that student, bad job, don't do that again. In other words, I exercise free will. I'm not just a slave of my biochemical reactions going off in my brain.
I believe there's such a thing as free will. I'm just wondering whether, I mean, we don't know everything that there is to know about the brain. I
That's
mean,
for
if you go
sure.
to any neurologist, they're going to say we don't know crap about the brain.
Right.
So how do you know that it's not merely something yet undiscovered? It's not, we're not controlling our brain in some capacity through other parts of the brain.
And I think that's partially true.
Like incredible just chemical reactions going on all the time that are somewhat controlled and somewhat uncontrolled.
Right. You guys go out, you drink enough alcohol, you're going to get drunk. That's going to radically affect your brain. So obviously the chemicals are important. But my point is, when you're not drunk, when you're sober, you have a degree of free will that enables you to make responsible or irresponsible decisions. Let me give you an example. University of Arizona. A guy raises his hand and says, I believe date rape is okay for me. I said, why? He said, because I have a very high testosterone level. Therefore, if she's going to go out with me, I get to date rape her. I said, wait a second. I hold you responsible for that. He said, I'm not responsible for that. I have a very high testosterone level. I have to date rape her. I said, well, fine, you can tell me that, but I'm convinced that you have a free will. I'm convinced you don't have to date rape her. Therefore, I'm going to hold you responsible. He didn't like that, but that's my experience of life. If I go up to this guy, pull back, slap him in the face, and you say, hey, man, why'd you do it? And I say, because I had to. I'm lying through my teeth. I didn't have to. I could reach out and respect the man, or I can slap him. I have a free will. Well, guess what? If he turns around and slaps her, I'm going to look him in the face and say, buddy, why did you slap her? And if he tells me, well, because I had to, because he's got dark glasses on, and anybody who has dark glasses on just reminds me of my parents who slapped me around, so I got to do this, I'm going to look him in the face and say, man, I'm sorry about your mom and dad slapping you while they had dark glasses on, but I still hold you responsible for slapping her. See, that's based on my belief, from my experience, that both this gentleman and I have free will. Now, the only way there can be free will is if there's some type of God who creates us as more than just a biological organism, with a soul, a spirit, a free will. See, human free will is based on the notion there's more to you and me than just chemicals. There's a soul, a mind, a free will.
Couldn't morals just be like a conscious decision to, like, perhaps like when the earliest social gatherings were starting, like tribes,
Yes.
things like that, and they realized that by living in the constant fear of being murdered by your tribesmen or having been stolen,
Right.
they came up with laws or morals that, hey, killing's bad. You know, we have to not kill to be able to survive in a tribe,
Sure.
to be able to produce enough and just live. So putting all these absolute morals, which we tend to believe in, like don't kill, don't rape, don't steal, things like that, is really just we're just thought of and obviously chosen to follow just for the benefit of all.
Yes, that's a possibility. But if you and I believe that, then we better not turn to a white South African and say apartheid is absolutely wrong. Instead, what we have to say is, from our cultural perspective, according to our national law, apartheid is wrong.
When you think about it, I mean, that's, you know, like cultural relativism. Really, though, it's like, if you do that, it's like saying either, like, our society says you're doing wrong, or God says you're doing wrong. Either way, it's like, it's their society and what they feel is right.
Right.
And all it really are is either coming from our society or coming from God. But either way, it's just their law is created by something. And in our society, it's like what we feel is right as a society to survive. And if you die, then it's what God says. It's just whoever believes in God.
But wait a second. If there is a God who has created all of us in his image, it means that it doesn't matter whether you're in South Africa, the United States, Nazi Germany. If you slaughter a human being, you are doing something absolutely evil, because that human being has innate value that comes from God. But if the atheist is correct, that there is no God, and we're just chance collections of atoms, then to try and argue that murder is absolutely wrong is ridiculous.
You have to base it on your society and your
Exactly. Correct.
You could argue that because there are so many religions, that nobody is really any more right than anybody else, including the atheist.
Exactly.
I don't know that I'm right. Really, no. I mean, you could be right and I could be wrong. I'm going to hell. But you know, or I could be right and you could be wrong and nothing happens.
morals coming from like the Christian God are completely different than morals coming from
In general.
like
Right. You're right. Okay. See, all I'm saying is, if you guys are atheists, and you haven't told me that yet, so I don't know, but if you are an atheist, and if you are therefore a moral relativist, what you have to deal with is, when you graduate from this fine university, it ultimately doesn't matter whether you become Adolf Hitler II or whether you become Mother Teresa II. It's simply an issue of what you choose. Now, you see, I don't think you guys are willing to live that out. I think you guys will live your lives as if to be Adolf Hitler II is absolutely evil. You would never seriously consider that option. And to be more like Mother Teresa is very, very good. What are you going to be? If there is no God and if morality is relative, it doesn't matter whether you're like Dr. Martin Luther King or whether you're part of the KKK. It's all relative. So if you want to be Dr. Martin Luther King II, go to it. If you want to be part of the KKK, go to it. It's all relative. See, you guys can't live that out, I don't think.
But the KKK is thought by the average American to be, like wrong and evil. And
So what?
thing, it is relative.
Relative then, all right.
They feel they're right. The KKK feels they're right, and we feel they're wrong. And we're in the majority, therefore they're thought of as being wrong.
Okay, but what you have to grapple with is, you can't be a hypocrite, an intellectual hypocrite. You've got to stick with what you believe. And if you believe that morality is relative, you've got to acknowledge it doesn't matter whether I become part of the KKK or whether I become Dr. Martin Luther King II.
Which is true.
It's just a matter of choice, whatever I choose.
Which is true, but your own relative morals are going to guide you to where you want to go.
Fine. But then what you've got to acknowledge is, I could do the opposite and be just as correct. One is not right, the other's not wrong. They're both right depending upon what I choose.
When it comes to your personal morals, that's true. But the rest of society is not going to agree with you, and that's what matters.
Oh, is it? Fine. Then what I hear you saying is, what really matters to me is the status quo, majority opinion. My point is, I have the utmost respect for Dr. Martin Luther King, who fought the status quo. He fought a majority opinion. So did Gandhi. So did the majority of people I respect as heroes. What did they do? They chose to follow their conscience instead of following majority opinion. I think we all have a great deal of respect for them.
Hey guys, thanks so much for watching this episode. Hit that subscribe button. We love for you to join the family. Also, want to invite you to our church in New Canaan, Connecticut. It's New Canaan High School, and it meets Sundays at 9:30 a.m.